Good morning, everyone. In previous lecture, we have completed acute hepatitis, acute viral hepatitis. So today we will see chronic hepatitis. So this chronic hepatitis, it represents a series of liver disorders of varying causes and severity in which hepatic inflammation and necrosis it continue for at least 6 months. So you will get uh, there are different causes for this chronic hepatitis, and also the severity of the disease it will also differ in chronic hepatitis, or you can say in hepatic inflammation and necrosis. And this process it should be continued for at least 6 months. So in last lecture, I have also told that to say chronic hepatitis, it should take at least 6 months. So this chronic hepatitis, it can be mild, in which the disease it is usually non-progressive, or it is only slowly progressive, or it can be more severe, in which this hepatitis it is usually associated with scarring of hepatocytes, or you can say liver, and architectural reorganization, which when advanced it leads to the cirrhosis. So this chronic hepatitis, or simply you can say that hepatic inflammation, it can be in a milder form, which is usually non-progressive, or to some extent it is slowly progressive, or this hepatic inflammation it can be more severe, in which you will see the scarring and ultimately cirrhosis. There are several categories for this chronic hepatitis, which includes viral hepatitis, which are caused by various viruses, then drug induced chronic hepatitis, which are caused by drugs. So what are those drugs that I have already explained in previous lectures? Then autoimmune chronic hepatitis, so in which our immune system attack our hepatocytes. So these are the categories: chronic viral hepatitis, drug induced hepatitis, and autoimmune chronic hepatitis. In many cases, what happens, the clinical and laboratory features, they are insufficient to categorize in these three groups. That is, there are certain clinical features, or you can say there are laboratory features, so which usually does not suggest that the condition is viral hepatitis or drug induced hepatitis, or whether it is autoimmune hepatitis. So such cases, they are referred as idiopathic cases or idiopathic hepatitis. But many of them, or you can say many physicians or many scientists, they believe that it is nothing but an autoimmune chronic hepatitis. So in chronic viral hepatitis, we all know there are certain viruses which will cause this condition. In drug-induced hepatitis, so as the name suggests, drugs they are responsible for this hepatitis, chronic hepatitis, and autoimmune chronic hepatitis. So the word itself represents that our immune system it attacks the hepatocytes, which is responsible for chronic hepatitis. And if there are certain cases in which the laboratory features or clinical features they does not suggest any one of these three categories, they can be called as idiopathic hepatitis. So the common to all forms of this chronic hepatitis are histopathological distinctions, which are based on the localization and extent of liver injury. So these varies from the milder forms, which is previously labeled as chronic persistent hepatitis, and to the more severe form, which is commonly referred as chronic hepatitis. So what is the milder form, or what are the features of milder form that I have just explained in previous slide, and also the features of more severe form. So this is called as chronic active hepatitis. So the actual classification of this chronic hepatitis, it is based on its cause that we have already seen in previous slide, that it may be viral, or it may be drug induced, or it may be autoimmune. Then the classification, it is also based on histological activity, or you can say grades or degree of progression or stages. So the chronic hepatitis, it is based, or you can say classified on the basis of its cause, its grade and its stages. So what are these grades, stages or the cause that we will see one by one. So first one is classification by cause. So in that, one is chronic viral hepatitis, and that we have already seen. So this chronic viral hepatitis, it is usually caused by hepatitis B, hepatitis D, and hepatitis C. So in previous lecture, we already seen that mostly the hepatitis B and hepatitis C, they are responsible for chronic infection, and hepatitis A and hepatitis E, they are responsible for acute infection. So in chronic viral hepatitis, you will get hepatitis B and hepatitis C. And then second one is autoimmune hepatitis, and third one is drug-induced hepatitis or drug-associated chronic hepatitis. Then second classification, which is according to its grade. So this grading system, it is obviously based on histological examination of hepatocytes done after liver biopsy. So basically, this is an histological grading, and it is not based on the clinical presentation of a patient. So it is based on histological examination. So it includes degree of periportal necrosis and disruption of limiting plate of periportal hepatocytes. So previously it was called as piecemeal necrosis or interface hepatitis. So in this diagram, you can say here is a portal vein, and bordering this portal vein, or you can say surrounding this portal vein, there is a layer of hepatocytes which is called as limiting plate. So in this case, you will get very total necrosis. That means necrosis of the layer of hepatocytes surrounding or limiting this portal vein. So previously it was also called as interface hepatocytes. That is because in previously this type of cell death or necrosis, it was initially considered uh, to be apoptosis also and the necrosis also. So the cell death, it was considered both apoptosis as well as necrosis. And again, it occurs at the junction where the liver parenchyma and connective tissue, they are together. So, or you can say the interface with each other, that is liver parenchyma and connective tissue, they interface with each other at this level. So that's why it is commonly called as interface hepatitis. Then next one is degree of hepatocytes degeneration and focal necrosis within the lobule, and degree of portal inflammation. So simply in this condition, when the cluster of lobules, they are involved in the necrosis, it comes, or it is called as focal necrosis. Then degree of confluent necrosis, so that means many lobules, or you can say multiple lobules, they are involved in the process of this necrosis, which then forms a bridge between vascular structures, for example between portal tract and portal tract, or even more important, bridges between portal tract and central vein. So here it is a portal tract, and here is a central vein. So here you can see the necrosis. So there is a bridging. Here is also a necrosis. So in this diagram, you can see there is a bridge between these two structures, between these two vascular structures. So that's why it is called as bridging necrosis. So based on this degree of histological activity, so that just we have seen, This chronic hepatitis, it can be graded as mild, moderate, and severe. Then next one is classification of chronic hepatitis by the stages. So the stage of chronic hepatitis, which reflects the progression of disease, it is based on degree of hepatic fibrosis. So the grading that we have already seen or in previous slides. So that grading system, it was based on hepatic necrosis, whereas stages, they are based on fibrosis. So this difference you should know, that classification uh, of this chronic hepatitis, or you can say the grading of chronic hepatitis, it is based on hepatic necrosis, whereas staging, it is based on hepatic fibrosis. So the when fibrosis, it is extensive, that the fibrous septa which surround the parenchymal nodules and alter the normal architecture of the liver level, then that histological level, it is defined as cirrhosis. So here the histological uh, definition of cirrhosis has been mentioned. So in which there is fibrosis, which is so extensive that fibrous septa which surround the parenchymal nodule and alter the normal architecture of liver lobule. So there are various, you can say, systems or scoring systems which classify the stages of this fibrosis. So I have mentioned, for example, Metaver score system. So there is another scale that is called as HAIB. So this is a hepatic index. So I have mentioned Metaver scoring system. So in which there are stages of fibrosis has been mentioned. So there is F0, which means there is no fibrosis. Then F1, when the fibrosis exists with expansion of total zones. Then F2, when fibrosis is there with expansion of most total zones and occasional bulging. So these histological features that we have already seen. So if there is an occasional bulging with fibrosis, then it is comes under the F2 category. Then in F3, the fibrosis which exists and there is an expansion of most portal zone and there is marked bridging and occasional nodules. So in F2 you will get occasional bridging and in F3 you will get marked bridging and in F4 uh, you will get cirrhosis. So you don't need to remember all this scoring system because they are based on histological examination. So you don't have to write in exam also, but you can remember this classification because they are usually essential for the judgment, or you can say for the decision of treatment. Then next one are causes for this chronic hepatitis. So there are many diverse causes of chronic hepatitis which can be broadly categorized into the viral and non-viral causes. So on the left side, you will get viral causes for this chronic hepatitis. So which includes obviously the hepatitis B virus, hepatitis C virus, and hepatitis D virus. And non-viral causes which are responsible for chronic hepatitis. It includes alcohol, that is alcoholic hepatitis. Second one is non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. Third one is Wilson's disease. Then drugs and autoimmune hepatitis. So we will see one by one. So first of all, we will see viral hepatitis. So in chronic viral hepatitis, we will mostly focus on hepatitis B and hepatitis C. So this chronic viral hepatitis, it is defined as or hepatocellular necrosis, or you can say hepatic necroinflammation, which is detectable by biochemical and histological methods. So what are histological methods that we already seen, and biochemical methods, that means in this liver enzymes they are involved, and these findings they are usually continued for more than 6 months. So we have already discussed regarding this criteria. The etiology of chronic viral hepatitis. So it is obvious that most of the chronic viral hepatitis they are caused by hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and hepatitis D. So out of this, hepatitis B and C, they are the two most common viruses which are responsible for chronic viral hepatitis. If we see about India, so in India, the deaths from the chronic hepatitis B and chronic hepatitis C infections they are increasing over the past years. So among these three viruses, we will first focus on hepatitis B virus. Most of the things you already know about this virus, because we have already discussed about this virus in acute viral hepatitis. So we will not go in detail with the description of this virus. So the epidemiology of this virus. So this hepatitis B is a DNA virus. So there is a spelling mistake. There is no DS. So this is a DNA virus which belongs to the Hepatinavirinae family. Then it is endemic throughout the world. Nearly 350 million people they are infected worldwide. So by focusing on this number or observing this number, you can understand the magnitude of this problem. In India, the carrier rate it has been found to be around 4 to 7% with an estimated 45 million infected individuals. So only out of 350 million people, nearly 45 million people you will get in India, and the carrier rate among these people it is usually 4% to 7%. This hepatitis B virus it is present in blood, saliva, semen, vaginal secretions, and menstrual blood, and to a lesser extent in perspiration also, breast milk, tears, and urine of infected individuals. So this virus, you can see, it is more dangerous for its transmission because it can be transmitted through this blood, saliva, then semen, vaginal secretions, and even perspiration and tears. So the transmission rate or the routes of transmission are more in this hepatitis B viruses. The virus it can survive outside the body nearly 7 days, and hence it is easily transmitted through the contact with infected body fluid. So we have already seen uh, what are the examples for this transmission of the virus through body fluids. So it includes blood, semen, perspiration, even tears, right? And this virus it can survive for nearly 7 days outside of the body. So that rate of transmission it is more or it is high in this virus. However, the mode of transmission it differs in the developed countries and in developing countries. So the sexual transmission it is common in the Western world, whereas in developing countries like in India, vertical transmission, that is from mother to child at birth, and early childhood infections they predominate. So this is a scenario when we compare between developed countries and developing countries. The chronic infection it leads to the cirrhosis and hepatocellular carcinoma in nearly 15% to the 40% of patients. So once patient gets infected with chronic hepatitis B and it turns out to be progressive, then it can lead to the cirrhosis and to some extent hepatocellular carcinoma in nearly 50% to the 40% of patients. Next one, the clinical features and outcome of this hepatitis B virus. So the clinical presentation of chronic viral hepatitis is similar for both hepatitis B and hepatitis C virus. So in previous lecture, I have already told that these hepatic viruses, even though they belong to the different families, but they will share some common clinical presentation. So in this chronic viral hepatitis also, you will get similar clinical presentation for both hepatitis B and hepatitis C virus. The chronic HPV infection, it is usually asymptomatic and it is commonly detected on routine blood testing or during evaluation of incidental or unexplained elevation in ALT levels. So most of the time, this HPV infection, it is asymptomatic. So in previous lecture, I have told that nearly 95% cases, or you can say nearly 70% to 95% cases, they are asymptomatic. So this HPV infection can be detected on routine blood testing. So, for example, you can see most of the patient when they undergo for some surgical procedure. So before going for surgery, many surgeons they check for hepatitis B virus and HIV virus. So on that occasion, patient may be diagnosed with hepatitis B virus positive, even though patient does not have any symptoms. So such are the incidents where this HPV infection can be detected, or some may routinely check their blood for any abnormality. So on that blood testing, some patient may know that they have HPV infection, or during evaluation of incidental unexplained elevation in alanine level. So some patient they may have elevated ALT levels, that is previously called as SGOT. So when this ALT levels it is increased, some patient may go to check the HPV infection, and at that time patient may be diagnosed to have HPV infection. The clinical symptoms of this virus, or you can say this chronic viral hepatitis, it includes mild and non-specific symptoms such as fatigue, right upper quadrant pain, nausea, weight loss, weakness, and pruritus. So in short, you will get some prodromal symptoms that we have already seen while discussing acute viral hepatitis. The patient with more advanced disease, they may have jaundice. So this is called as icteric phase. And when the patient has only prodromal symptoms like anorexia, nausea, vomiting, fatigue, so that is called as anicteric phase. So some patient may have jaundice in an advanced disease, or abdominal swelling, or even GI bleed or hepatic encephalopathy. Sometimes the condition is diagnosed when the patient presents with an acute hepatitis illness, which is due to reactivation of chronic hepatitis B. So even though patient, sometimes what happens, patient have uh, hepatitis B infection and it does not produce any symptoms, but after a while patient may present with features which suggest acute hepatitis, so which includes abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, anorexia. So patient will present with such an acute hepatitis illness, and at that time, patient may be diagnosed with chronic hepatitis B. So it is mostly of us due to reactivation of this virus. Physical examination, it is usually unremarkable, but the stigmata of chronic liver disease, it may be present. So mostly you will not get any specific signs on the physical examination. So because it is a chronic, you can say, process. But sometimes you may get tenderness in right upper quadrant. So such signs you will get, or hepatomegaly may have present. So such hepatomegaly, so with or without splenomegaly, may be present depending on the stages of disease. So mostly you will get, or you may get hepatomegaly on physical examination, and this hepatomegaly it may be or may not be associated with splenomegaly. So it usually depends on the stages of disease. The outcome of chronic hepatitis B infection, HBV infection, it depends on the age of acquisition of infection. So that I have already told in previous lecture that most patients who are infected in early childhood and initial infection, it leads to the inactive HBEG positive disease with high level viremia and minimum liver damage. So in short, most patients they get infected in early childhood and they will have high level viremia and minimal liver damage. That is because of immune tolerant phase. So what is immune tolerance, that I have already told while explaining acute viral hepatitis. With an advancing age, many patients they develop immune response, that is called as immune clearance phase. So during this immune clearance phase, what happens? It leads to liver inflammation with progressive disease, that is which is manifested by high levels of AST and ALT, and after seroconversion to HBeG negative phase of infection with low level of viremia and normal liver function test. So that is called as inactive replicative phase. So initially you will get immune response against these viruses. So when this immune response start, it leads to the progression of disease, and later on there is an inactive replicative phase during which you will get normal liver function test, and obviously there is low level of viremia. So why this low level of viremia is there? That is because of developed immune response. A proportion of patients they have reactivation of infection. So this is called as reactivation phase, and develop HBeG negative disease with fibrosis progression. Then diagnosis for this hepatitis B virus, we have already seen in previous lecture what are the markers for the diagnosis of hepatitis B virus. So diagnosis it is mostly based on detection of HBsAg antigen which persists in the serum for more than 6 months. There are two main forms of chronic hepatitis B. One is HBeAg positive form, which is associated with mild type. So whenever HBeAg positive, it is considered as wild type. Sorry, I have mistakenly told mild type. So whenever HBeAg present or it is positive, it is associated with wild type infection. And another form is there where HBeAg is negative, which is associated with core promoter or pre-core mutant viruses. So in such cases, hepatitis B core antibodies it is present in chronic B hepatitis, and presence of HBeAg or high HBV DNA are the markers of replicative viruses. So in previous lecture, I have told that there are nearly 4 antigens in hepatitis B virus. So HBsAg, HBeAg, then HBcAg, and one is HBx. So in mostly in chronic hepatitis B infection, you will get HBc antibodies, and if there is HBeAg is present, or whenever there is high HBV DNA is present, then it is indicative of replication of virus. That means virus is replicated rapidly, or load of virus it is more in our body. So I have already told regarding this viral load in previous lecture. The transaminases, that is AST and ALT, they are typically elevated, usually 1 to 5 times the upper limit of normal, with ALT which is more increased than AST, whereas alkaline phosphatase level it is only mildly elevated. So mostly liver enzymes they are elevated in this chronic hepatitis. So among this liver enzymes, ALT is mostly elevated. The albumin globulin ratio it remains normal except in advanced stages of disease where a reversal of this albumin globulin ratio may be seen. Abdominal USG, it is the most commonly used imaging modality, although it is not useful in the making of diagnosis. So even though many physicians use this USG, so it is not useful for the diagnosis, because for the diagnosis we need serological markers. However, it's important, it lies in distinguishing the patients with cirrhosis, so which may be small or shrunken nodular liver, or there may be atrophy of right lobe with hypertrophy of left lobe, or those with portal hypertension. So simply we need this USG for the detection of patient with cirrhosis, or there is an atrophy of right lobe, or to detect hypertrophy of left lobe, or to detect portal hypertension. Again, it is a screening test for hepatocellular carcinoma. So this abdominal ESG can be used as a screening test for hepatocellular carcinoma. Then there is a newer technique which is called as USG elastography, or sometimes referred as fibroscan, which is a non-invasive imaging modality used for the assessment of fibrosis in chronic hepatitis. So why fibrosis is here, we already know. So to detect the fibrosis or the stiffness of this liver in chronic hepatitis, this fibroscan it can be used to detect some advanced fibrosis. This is an image of this fibroscan. So it is nearly similar to the conventional our USG. The chronic hepatitis is a necroinflammatory process that may be complicated by fibrosis, so that we already know. The hallmark of chronic hepatitis it is a portal hypertension, portal inflammation, which is sometimes referred as portal hepatitis, predominantly lymphocytic. So these changes they are common to the all etiologies of chronic hepatitis. So uh, mostly in chronic hepatitis, you will get portal inflammation. So we have already seen periportal necrosis. So initially, obviously, there will be portal inflammation. So this portal inflammation it is a hallmark for this chronic hepatitis, and mostly predominantly lymphocytic. So this you can say histological finding. It is usually common to the all etiology of chronic hepatitis, including viral hepatitis. But there are certain changes which are characteristic but not pathognomic of chronic HBV infections, which includes ground glass appearance of hepatocytes, which are the hallmark of hepatitis B infection, which is due to proliferation of smooth endoplasmic reticulum, which contains HBs antigens. So mostly the hepatocytes which contains HBs, uh, they will look under microscope hazy and dull. So this hazy and dull appearance under microscope, it is referred as ground glass appearance. So these ground glass hepatocytes, they are the hallmark for the hepatitis B infection. So basically, this word it is given based on appearance under microscope. Liver biopsy, it is not required for the diagnosis of chronic viral hepatitis. So that we already know, because viral hepatitis, it is diagnosed on the basis of serological markers. Its usefulness lies in the histological assessment of the liver for the severity of necroinflammation, that is for the grading, and degree of fibrosis, that is staging. So we have already seen this grading and staging. So for the assessment of this grading and staging, we need liver biopsy and not for the diagnosis of this chronic hepatitis. Several histological classification systems, they are used for this purpose, which know Nodal-Ishak score, Sugar score, or Metavi score, etc. So we have already seen what is Metavi score. So like Metavi score, there are different other scoring system like Nodal-Ishak score or Score score. So such information, it is useful for making therapeutic decision. The treatment of chronic HBV infection, it should be restricted to the patients with active inflammation and high replicating stage. So those patients who have or who does not have any active inflammation and there is low replicative state, so in that case treatment is not at all needed. So only the patient who has active inflammation and higher replicative state, the treatment is needed. So such patients, they are at high risk of progressive disease, which may lead to the cirrhosis and hepatocellular carcinoma. So why such patient needs treatment? Because there is a high risk of this progression of the disease, which may ultimately lead to the cirrhosis and hepatocellular carcinoma. So this slide you should remember because it tells when to start the treatment. So the current guidelines, they advocate the treatment in patients with HPV DNA viral load which is more than 20,000 international units per ml in HPAG positive patients. So when a patient is HPAG positive plus HBV DNA copies, they are more than 20,000, and so in that case treatment is initiated. Or second scenario, when the HPH is negative and the HPV DNA is more than 2000, then treatment can be started. So these are the two guidelines or scenarios in which you can decide uh, to start the treatment. So one scenario, it is regarding HPAG positive and HPAG negative. So if HPAG positive, then you can start treatment when the HPV DNA is more than 20,000, and in patients who has HPAG negative, so in that case patient, you have to start the treatment when HPV DNA it is more than 2000. So this type of treatment, it has two goal. One is short-term goal and second one is long-term goal. So in short-term goal of treatment, what is the goal? Is to convert the patients from high replication phase to the low replication phase, which is characterized by the appearance of HPE antibodies, which is called as seroconversion, or the disappearance of HPV and DNA. So the short-term goal of treatment is it includes to slow down or come down the replication phase. So if there is a high replication phase, the goal is to bring it to the low replication phase. And second factor is that there should be an appearance of hepatitis B antibodies and disappearance of HBV DNA. The endpoint obviously it is associated with lower normal ALT levels and histological improvement. And what is the long-term goal? So the long-term goals, it includes the delay or prevent of histological progression to the cirrhosis of hepatocellular carcinoma, which leads to improved survival. So first, our aim is to slow down the replication phase, and second one is to delay or prevent the progression of disease to the cirrhosis or hepatocellular carcinoma. So the ideal aim of treatment is HBsAg or HBs antibody seroconversion, which is difficult to achieve. So, however, our aim is simple, but it is difficult for its achievement. Treatment options, they include interferon, both standard and pegylated, then antiviral drugs such as nucleosides or nucleotides. So I have already explained in previous lecture. So there are various antiviral drugs, for example, lamivudine that I have told in last lecture. Then apart from lamivudine, there is adifovir, emtricitabine, antisavir, and tenofovir. So tenofovir, it is also commonly used in India for the treatment of this virus. The usual regimen for PEG interferon, it is weekly dose for 12 months. The nucleoside treatment, it should be continued for at least 6 months, preferably 12 months. So in both the cases, you have seen that the patient needs the treatment for a longer duration. Uh, the interferon, it should be avoided in HBsAg negative patients as the result are disappointing and the endpoints of the treatment, they are not well defined. So use of interferons, it is only indicated in a patient with HBeAg positive. The problem with oral antiviral drugs is the long duration of treatment and the risk of resistance. So we have already seen that patient needs the treatment for at least 6 months or preferably 12 months. So this is a one problem. And second one is patient may develop a resistance to these medicines. So this is all about chronic hepatitis B. In next lecture, we will see about chronic hepatitis C virus. So this is the end of the lecture. Thank you.